now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Morning. What's up, party people? It is Thursday here on our big KGO in Exile, KGO old team. Now, Mark Thompson Show, new team, new place. Oh, yeah. I like a little funk in the morning, you know? You know what I'm talking about. I want to welcome you into our YouTube show, which is completely live from 10 to noon each day. Right here, we need your support, meaning your participation. You can text right into the chat. Why don't you
just text it?
Yeah, just chat. Chat with the other people who are on board to chat. We have the full crew with you today. Sort of the full crew. We have fabulous producer John Daly.
Fabulous producer
John Daly.
Yes, and we have Kim McAllister, everybody. Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
And Kim is rocking a different living room today. We actually asked her off the air, what is that living room? Like, where is that from? Because it's a slightly different scene than we've seen in the past.
What can you tell us about?
What can you tell us about the scene?
Yeah, what can you tell us about the scene, Kim? Is that a living room in Los Angeles? We can't quite tell. It looks hazy.
Yeah, the smog would indicate yes, but truly I'm not sure.
Beverly Hills?
I Googled fancy living room, and this is what we got.
Oh, well, it's...
What can you tell us about the scene?
Well, we can tell you, Larry, that when you Google fancy living room, that's the scene you get, Larry.
That's it.
We have a lot to do on the program. Tony's off today, but he's kind of monitoring.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, he's doing his thing. So we're doing our thing without him, but hopefully no technical issues. Actually, Kim is doing a huge thing for us today to try to smooth her signal out, so we appreciate that.
Well, you know, I'm next door at my mom's house, and now that I'm here, apparently the sofa guy is going to come deliver the new sofa. So now, middle of the show, I might have to get up and go let the sofa guy in. This is what happens when you work next door at your mom's house. You see?
Well, if you
Applause
turn
for
the
the
camera
sofa
on,
guy,
it
though.
can kind of be like a porn scenario.
Oh, that's
Good
right.
morning.
I'm here to deliver the sofa, man.
How old are
Could
you,
you-
Kim?
Could you
Yeah.
re-rack and replay that music? Because I think that's well.
Yeah. Bring in the
That
guy
is
from
kind of porny
7-Eleven.
music. You're right about
Yeah.
that.
You got to
It
bring
is.
in that
Yeah.
7-Eleven guy.
It's extra.
Yeah, all right. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, you're the guy I saw at 7-Eleven.
How old are you?
Wait a minute. This is kind of weird.
I got your sofa.
Okay, see, the inside
Hey.
joke is that I got hit on it by a guy at the 7-Eleven. He's like, "How old are you?" And I'm, yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, the guy at 7-Eleven is not coming to my mom's house. No.
Well, I mean, unless he has a side hustle as a delivery
Yeah,
guy.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never can tell. Hey, we
I got
have
your
corrections and apologies today. I have a Nazi-related correction
Uh-oh.
that we'll do right after Steve at around 10:25 or 10:23.
Wait, did we talk about Nazis?
Who was talking about Nazis?
It's not our apology.
Oh, okay, good.
No.
You're making me nervous.
It's no. We have no apologies or corrections on the.
I was wrong, period.
But the a major U.S. company, I'll just put it this way, has inadvertently created an issue, and they have to apologize. So that's what's going on.
I do hug and kiss.
No, it's
people
not hugging and
casually.
kissing Nazis. It's a real.
Because we know Ford has a history.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Ford is all Nazis all the time. Yeah, Henry Ford was the original American Nazi.
Speaking of
Midterm.
Nazis,
What's that?
Speaking of Nazis, since we're on the topic, is
Yes.
it not? It's in the anniversary of something big today, right? Kristallnacht.
Oh, yes. This is a Kristallnacht related apology. So let's please not skip ahead in the hymnal.
Oh, well.
But I do like that you are aware, because you will need that knowledge for the apology.
Okay.
All right? So just hang on to that knowledge, and we'll get to that in a little while.
I mean, this is a very strange yet effective tease.
I just thought I should lead with
it's got everything.
midterm stuff. Yeah.
Not everything.
I've already gotten a. Can I? Hey, you know, I know we have specific designated times to do things, but I've already received a $10
You don't get it in order, you don't get the prize. That's just the way it works on the Mark Thompson show.
No, it is true. We like things in order. Yeah. But I so I hate to break with precedent, but I just like that early on, Northside Service Company, $10 because Mark wore the dark rimmed glasses.
My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I couldn't wear the other ones because it's not important. I can wear them. These are, I think, better. I was trying different glasses. These are not as blurry, so that's why I was wearing them.
Kind of matches the Mark merch.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank you, Northside.
Thank you.
Well, and now we know Northside Service Company is prompt.
Yeah, they're right on top of it, and they're keeping track of the glass rims. So they have attention to detail, which is a good thing to have when you're a service company. Welcome into everyone who has joined us live, and if you are just joining us, smash the like button, smash it early. That way you don't have to smash it again.
Smash it with your iron rod.
As always, I tell you, you don't need to smash it with your iron rod, despite her insistence. But if you have an iron rod handy, never hurts to smash with the iron rod.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely smash.
So there's that. And we'll hit you with all the ways you can support the show. You just saw with stickers with contributions in real time on YouTube. We also have a Patreon page. And it's all at themarkthompsonshow.com. That way it'll pass you through if you prefer PayPal or something like that. We really essentially crowdfund this show month to month. So we just hope that the crowd builds and we can continue to fund. I do want to thank our original sponsor and our sole sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, who is, I think, an elite sponsor. You know, we didn't have to get an erectile dysfunction medicine to support us. That may happen on the show. And if it does, you're going to hear me speak passionately and fervently about how great they are. But you'll know in your heart that I would have rather had Steve Moskowitz than the erectile dysfunction.
Well, we were working on it, but they dropped out.
Oh, is that right? They just couldn't sustain the support?
It all fell apart.
Anyway, Steve is with us. He's the real deal. You know, I mean, he's handled big tax cases. He's handled what you might consider individual, smaller tax cases. You can reach him at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, and also online, MoskowitzLLP.com. I'll speak to him a little later this half hour. And I mentioned our email address, our new email address. Some of you are still hitting me at the old KGO address, which is still working. But I'd love to begin to channel everything to this address, which is the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com.
People are also still texting 808810, which doesn't officially go anywhere except my phone because I still have it on my phone.
I see. Yeah.
And they never turned it off. And I'm being nice and responding to people, but yeah, that doesn't go anywhere.
Well, you're nothing if not nice, John. I want to lastly just comment on comments that came in after trading. You know, after trading was closed, as they say on CNBC. The comments come in. I always tell you that we do read the comments. You can comment if you're not in the chat now, not watching live. You're watching on replay. Of course, we ask you to hit the like button, smash it, the thumbs up. But I also tell you that if you participate in comments, which is good for us on YouTube as well, because they want audience engagement, we read them and we'll respond to them if we possibly can. Barbara Wong commenting that enjoyed Jim Avila. Listening to your show, Mark, Kim, and John every morning from Naperville, Illinois. Shout out to Naperville, Illinois. All while drinking out of my Mark Merch silver tumbler. Come on. Shout out to the silver tumbler. I've got a black one here.
Which is nice, but I think the silver one is high class.
I agree. I think the silver one really rocks. I agree.
Well, we only have 500 each, so you maybe get one as a stocking stuffer. Get one for your mom.
Yes,
I feel like I need to put my order in now before those silver ones are sold out.
They have a limited number, and they are fantastic.
You want an extra one in case you have company.
Yeah.
Right,
it's fantastic.
Especially around the holidays. You know, Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas.
Sure. People will go, hey, do you have it? Right. Where can I get one? I'm sorry, but they're all out. But I have two, and I will give you one. Lan says, thank you for having Jim Avila. It was wonderful to hear his input. I hope he will be a regular guest. He will be a regular guest. In fact, there was a part of me that wanted Jim Avila today to join us. And one of the reasons I love Jim Avila is that he's remarkably insightful. He has a wealth of experience that I think is unparalleled pretty much. He has Peabody Awards. He has Emmys. He covered the White House. He was the senior correspondent for ABC News. And mostly on this midterms, I wanted Jim Avila, which we had yesterday, and I encourage you to go back to it, because Jim Avila was one of the only voices that said, ignore the polls. The polls are wrong on this. There was a huge female registration, women registering to vote in huge numbers, and young people animated by climate change, the reversal on Roe. They are going to wade into this election in a way that is significant. Avila said that. And that was a lone voice in the night. And I'm so glad that we could have him in yesterday, and we'll have him in much more. Yes.
I am so happy that happened. I kept passing around the row your vote meme, and it looks like people were listening. Women came out and voted, and I have to think that's why.
I'm kind of embarrassed is the wrong word, maybe, but I feel a bit bad that I did believe the polls. And in a way, I was sort of beginning to, it was reinforcing some of what my worst thoughts about humanity, which is that somehow you could forget Roe and the reversal on Roe so soon after that decision because the economy bumped it out of the way, crime bumped it out of the way. You heard it. I was believing, in effect, the media loop, and then all of those right-wing pundits and right-wing pollsters, you understand, they almost reverse engineered the result they wanted. So they felt that they could bang that drum of crime and inflation. And those are legitimate issues. But the notion that those could shove Roe out of the way, I saw that on that loop, and I saw it in so many publications. It was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. And I swallowed it a bit. And in a sense, as I say, it reinforced some of what my worst feelings about humanity, which is that they could ignore a woman's reproductive rights like this just because the price of gas is a certain. And so
there's one of the top stories in the New York Times today. The headline reads, "My main core issue, abortion, the driving force for many voters." And we saw yesterday, and it wasn't just California, 5 states, even more conservative states, Wisconsin, Michigan, that abortion that was on the ticket in all 5 states, the abortion rights were upheld. So that's huge. And I think that sends a huge message.
No question you're right. No question you're right. So on the question of blame, it will come as no surprise to you. Trump-endorsed candidates did not have a good night, of course. Now, that doesn't mean it was a total washout at all. The J.D. Vance race and others. There are other examples. I mean, what's his name? Ron in Wisconsin. Johnson. Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. He's not only an election denier.
Name,
yeah, I think he's delivering the couch today.
Right.
Hello, Ron Johnson.
It has a porny name, it's true. And so, yeah. Well, hello.
Good morning.
Are you the election denier? I didn't realize you were so sexy. You were there on January 6th? Oh, my God. That sofa is mine. Ooh.
You have my support.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Yeah. Looks like it's porn theater day today. But
well, once you start in the gutter, you really can't get out,
Yeah. But the fact is that guys like that did prevail. I mean, that was Wisconsin is such an effed up place when it comes to the elections. Gerrymandered to the point the Democrats are, really iced out of the political game there. And then you got a guy like Ron Johnson who's just toxic, poisonous, and he makes it to re-election. So as to the Trump-picked candidates, It was remarked upon all over the world. In Australia, they were talking about what happened with Trump.
Now, Trump backed a lot of candidates, as we know, including the TV star Dr. Oz, who lost his run in Pennsylvania. So, who's the former president blaming? Well, his wife, Melania, believe it or not. We've seen reports that she advised him to promote Oz, a decision Trump now says wasn't her best.
I'm just delighted that they talk. I didn't think Melania and Trump actually spoke anymore.
Carolyn, he's thrown his wife under the bus here. Trump did seem to be untouchable within the Republican Party. Now they seem to be turning on him a bit. The results haven't gone the way that he had hoped, although he's saying they're great.
Oh, for sure. I mean, although I think that Karl Rove said it best today when he said that a lot of the candidates that Donald Trump banked were basically knuckleheads. They were really inexperienced. They believed completely crazy things. They were in favour of things like the idea that the 2020 election was rigged and so on and so forth.
They were handpicked by Trump because of their fealty to Trump. That's why they were there. Fealty is a ding word.
So the fact
just like Donald Trump.
Right. So the fact
It's the old playbook, isn't it? For the last time round.
Really poor candidates who believe knuckleheaded things have lost is actually a good news story for democracy.
Now, the former president had this interview just before the midterms. Just take a listen to this first.
By the way, this interview is done with for a lot of reasons. I wanted you to have clean audio on this, and so I felt the best way was just for you to hear it. That's the reason I'm not showing you the picture right now. So if you're listening on the podcast, you're not missing anything on that regard. But this girl, I'll call her that, who's interviewing Donald Trump, you'll hear her here in the question in a moment. She's like this new breed of, I don't know her at all, so she may be a really competent journalist, but, she's very attractive and, super telegenic young. And that's an easy way to get into Trump land, to get an interview with Trump on this, at this key pivotal point in the election process.
For Fox News.
Exactly. I think she works for News Nation actually now. So anyway, I just wanted you to know who you're hearing from, because
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
Well, I'm for some people it's easier than others.
You've endorsed more than 330 candidates this election cycle. Tonight, win or lose, the results for Republicans, how much of that will be because of Donald Trump?
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit, and if they lose, I should not be blamed at all. Okay?
No, that's a joke, but that's exactly how he feels.
That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it, Brooklyn?
It's classic Donald Trump.
It's really true. He believes that.
That's why we loved him as a TV host, not so much as a president. But he put himself on the line, getting so attached to these midterms, and it hasn't really worked out for him. So, where did the Republican Party go now? Is he in their future? Like, he's desperately going to try to be. I think the world's best hope to not have Donald Trump as president again is for the Republican Party to turn against him.
I mean, even senior Republican figures since this result in the past few hours have said that Donald Trump has actually cost us power.
Yeah.
And should have control of the Senate. So,
I mean, that, by the way, that may be the most important point there, that the Republicans finally are turning away from him.
Maybe that is a sign they're starting to turn on him. And this Florida governor that we're now hearing about, Ron DeSantis.
I love how the Australians, we just noticed, this Florida governor guy, he seems like he could be maybe relevant, yeah?
Turn on him. And this Florida governor that we're now hearing about, Ron DeSantis, is the hero.
Yeah, and a lot of Rupert Murdoch-controlled media seems to be really pushing him at the moment, which is so fascinating, because it really, Trump relied on that encouragement and that support to kind of get him where he got originally.
That is such a big deal that Rupert Murdoch has turned on Trump. Don't know if you saw the New York Post. Maybe you can get it, the piece up, John or Kim. The New York Post had
Google it.
Essentially daily news as well, I believe, in New York. I mean, these are papers that, have splashy headlines and big front pages, and that Trump sees. They have completely turned on him. In fact, I can read you a piece from the New York Post that is a brutal takedown of Donald Trump. Here's how Donald Trump sabotaged the Republican midterms. I won't read you the whole thing, but just want to give you a flavor. Now, these are die-hard GOP that are now turning on him. And I'll give you a little sound in a moment from Maggie Haberman on what was going on the inside. But I just wanted to speak to, because they talk about it in that Australia piece, I wanted to speak to how the the GOP is turning on him. And here's a classic example right out of the New York Post. Hey, Lion Ted, Sleepy Joe, meet toxic Trump. You know, if the former president had any self-knowledge or even the slightest ability to be self-deprecating, he might consider giving himself the alliterative nickname. There it is, Trumpty Dumpty, you see it? That's what I'm talking about. All three straight national tallies in which either he or his party or both were hammered by the national electorate. After all of that, it's time for even his stands to accept the truth. Toxic Trump is the political equivalent of a can of Raid. What Tuesday night's results suggest is that Trump is perhaps the most profound vote repellent in modern American history. The surest way to lose in these midterms was to be a politician endorsed by Trump. This is not hyperbole, except for deep red states where a Republican corpse would have beaten a Democrat. Voters choosing in actually competitive races, who everyone expected would behave like midterm voters usually do and lean toward the out party, took one look at Trump's hand-picked acolytes and gagged. Acolytes is a ding word. Liberal fundraisers, this is key because, once in a while you look at the Democrats and you go, what are you doing, guys? This is a really dangerous playing with fire move. Liberal fundraisers actually put money behind Trump-endorsed candidates. In the GOP primaries, you saw all that money flow into Trump-endorsed candidates, remember? And the idea was, and it was kind of a 3D chess move, we'll back these candidates, the Trump-endorsed, election-denying, science-denying candidates. We'll back them. They'll win the primary. When I say back them, a lot of money went into these races. And then in the general, they will lose in the midterm. And that's exactly what did happen.
Yep.
It was transparently cynical and an abuse of our political process, but it worked like gangbusters. I'll post this entire column to my Twitter feed, which is @MarkTLive, but that gives you a sense of things. I mean, really sorry, go ahead, Kim, yeah?
Oh, I was just going to say, there's some races I'm following. I'm kind of disappointed to see Boebert is in the lead now, but it's still really close. She hasn't won it yet. So,
yeah. I mean,
speaking of such candidates. Yeah.
No, I think that's actually a really good point. And we're going to get to Steve Moskowitz in a second. I see him waiting, but I do want to mention that she's not alone. Kayleigh, she is, she's way in with this Trumpism, with the election deniability, science denying, taking on the media, smack talking, that sort of a flame throwing GOP that we saw emerge.
Do you ever wonder what is wrong with her? Like, what is wrong with people that do that? Do they really have no brain in their head?
No, I mean, I think she's.
Are she aware that she's a complete ass? Or is that just normal to her?
Well, she's power hungry.
Yeah, it's effective, actually. I mean, she's identified that this is working. It's 100%.
Yeah, it's 100% effective.
All right. More in a moment. We've got corrections and retractions and apologies. Most of all, it's an apology that's coming up next. Not from our show, but from a major U.S. company. And it involved Nazis. So we'll get to that as we continue. And then more on the election. I still have some more sound from Fox News. You must hear what they're saying. This guy, Trump, he has 10-foot pole marks all over him right now. So more on that as we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to talk to the guy, though. He is the man, the ninja. Steve Moskowitz, everybody. What's up, Steve Moskowitz?
Hi, Mark. I want to talk to your viewers about ERC, Employee Retention Credit. This is where employers can get up to $26,000 for every employee they have that's qualified. So if you have 10 employees, that could be up to over $250,000. If you had 20, up to over $500,000, and so on. We've had clients that have gotten millions from this, and I realize people's facts, circumstances, results can differ. Not everybody qualifies, and lots of people getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in these grants, this free government money, and lesser amounts too. But there are still doubters, and what's caused so much confusion is so many people were only told about one test. There's two tests. You only have to pass one. The one test is the easy test. That's where if your gross revenue goes down a certain amount, you're in, nothing to talk about, nothing to figure out. It's just a number. But a lot of firms are stopping there, and they're saying, well, if your gross revenue didn't go down enough, that's it, no ERC for you. Wrong. There's a second test, a facts and circumstances test, and all types of things can qualify you. Like for all businesses in the state of California, when you had to use the inside of your business, you could only use 25% of your business from the beginning of COVID until June 15th, 21. That's a 75% government imposed partial closure. If you had supply chain problems, and a lot of people did, that may qualify, and a lot of other things. We'll actually take the time to sit down with you, work on it, and if you qualify, let's get every penny to which you're legally entitled. On the other hand, avoid like the plague the companies that the IRS is investigating, the scammers that says everybody qualifies, and they're filing false reports. You do not want to commit any type of fraud. You do not want to commit a tax fraud. You really, really, really don't. But there's all these companies that just sprang up, popped up, just to do ERC. And when the IRS has a few questions, they're going to be long gone. When you call their phone number, you're going to get a disconnected line. We have practiced tax law for over 30 years in San Francisco. We're here for you. We want to get you every penny to which you're legally entitled, obviously keep you out of trouble too. And we'll take the time and the effort to sit down with you. Even if somebody said you don't qualify because your gross revenue didn't go down enough, if you qualify under the other test, the complicated test, the facts and circumstances test, let's go ahead and get that free money from the government.
Well, I mean, that you really point out to us repeatedly that there are some intricacies here that really have to be respected. And it sounds as though it's sort of rubber stamped by some tax firms. And as you say, some of them are fly by night. And so the detail and the care that is reflected by Moskowitz, it's something special. And I'd love our audience to take advantage of it. You can check in with Steve on any number of tax issues, but ERC really does represent, even to, as you were telling us over the many months, even to those who are individuals who may be sole business proprietors, in other words, they can still be eligible for a government checks.
You can have a company that has one employee and they can get a government check. It's one up to 500, and if you're more than 500, there's a special rule.
Reach Steve Moskowitz. It is 888 tax deal. It's right there on the screen. 888 tax deal. 888 TAXDEAL. You can also reach him online, which is also on the screen. MoskowitzLLP.com. You spell Moskowitz Moskowitz. You spell LLP MoskowitzLLP.com. We love him. Steve Moskowitz, let's talk next hour. Thanks, Steve.
Love you too. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Big time.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted to, before I got to when are we doing the shout-outs? The correction and apology I want to do now. But, John, do I need to do shout-outs right now?
We do shout-outs after the news.
After the news. Okay. Thank you to everybody.
You get the extra point.
Yeah, I struggle with the order.
Sometimes you just do it at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
John, will you turn up your level a little bit for me? Either you're a little low or
Aye, Captain.
Yeah, I'm having a stroke, which is legitimately possible. I've got Kayleigh McEnany audio. We're going to talk about the UN Summit Conference on climate. We'll do that next hour with It's the Planet Stupid. But I did want to do a little bit in the way of correction.
And apology.
This is not an apology from this show. We are in good shape. I don't see anything we need to apologize for yet. But there is a major apology that has to do with Nazis. That
I was wrong, period.
It was not from Stephen A.
Is it from The View? Is it Whoopi?
No, Whoopi would have been good. Yeah, that's right. She is the ranking officer on deck
for stepping in it?
when it comes to Nazis.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, like that was a rough one. I mean, that was a real rough one. She said she misspoke.
I misspoke.
But I think whatever. This isn't from I remember that week though for Whoopi. Remember that was like the hat trick of apologies where there were like 3 in a row. And then one of them had her suspension and all that stuff.
Like, not good enough.
Yeah. And so
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Well, maybe she should have said that. But I thought she said, my bad. Where's the my bad? Do I still have that?
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
You know,
That's
broadcasting from my mom's house today, she keeps bringing me little notes, things she wants me to tell you.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you meant like network notes.
No.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I don't know why that's over there, but there it is. Yeah. What's her
She'll
issue?
She's hearing us discuss a topic, and then she runs down with a little note about, how her feeling about the matter. So she's weighing in on the abortion issue. Today's paper, she writes, says abortion is not a partisan issue. And she goes on. Only 1 in 10 say abortion should be illegal in all cases. 6 in 10 say Supreme Court decision made them dissatisfied or angry. Just so you know, my mom's weighing in on the show today. I'm doing the show from her house. She has opinions.
Yeah, I love her opinions, and I hope she continues to weigh in liberally, meaning often, not from a partisan standpoint. I mean that. I wanted to get back to the apology that was issued. It was issued by Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Say what?
KFC, apologizing after in Germany they did a kristallnacht promotion.
Oh no.
I mean, that is
in poor taste.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I don't know what it's like. Tell everybody, one of you, what kristallnacht
Google it.
Was.
Kristallnacht. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, you go ahead, Kim.
It was the day that Nazi leaders started the series of programs against the Jewish population in Germany. It came to be called Kristallnacht because in one incident, glass shattered and was littered all over the streets. It was vandalism. It was the destruction of Jewish-owned businesses, synagogues, and homes. And because of all the glass all over the streets in the night, they called it Kristallnacht. But it was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it was already the case that Jewish businesses were being boycotted. Their rights to make money even was taken away. The state took those rights away. They were viewed as vermin. I mean, this is all in the propaganda at the time. And Kristallnacht was, as Kim was saying, sort of the crest of the wave. They began openly vandalizing these businesses. It wasn't enough that they had isolated all of these people. You weren't allowed to go to a Jewish doctor. You weren't allowed to go to a Jewish lawyer. I mean, it was they choked off the Jewish community. And then Kristallnacht was, as I say, the culmination of all of that on one level. I mean, later, as you know, it was culminated with the extermination, the herding up, the trucking, and the putting these people on trains and then, killing them, gassing whole families, and, I mean, killing people out on the streets. And, we tend to just look at, it was awful, it was the Third Reich, whatever, it was the Holocaust. But what actually happened is pretty brutal, and Kristallnacht was an inflection point. So when you have a Kristallnacht promotion from KFC, it's a little tone deaf. Yeah. So KFC has...
I was wrong, period.
KFC has apologized after sending a promotional message to customers in Germany, urging them to commemorate Kristallnacht with cheesy chicken.
Oh, my God.
I can't even.
Yeah. It's
what?
I'm saying.
Someone needs to be fired. Who even thought of that? And by the way, how appropriate with a grilled chicken book behind you. But I feel
that's a different thing. The chicken, that's about the way chickens are treated and how, though, you can bring in the chicken producers. It's a totally different thing. But you're right.
You mean you're not celebrating Kristallnacht? No?
No, it's not actually not a celebration.
Who is having that conversation?
Good
Who is having that conversation?
The Nazi-led series of attacks in the country in 1938 left more than 90 people dead, destroyed Jewish-owned businesses and places of worship, widely seen as the beginning of the Holocaust, as Kim was saying. The message, heavily criticized for its insensitivity, was later blamed on an error in our system. That's a fine, no single person. It was the system. It was a system error. Yeah. They needed processes, protocols.
Processes and protocols and standards.
Is that like the Colonel's AI?
We are very sorry, they say. We will check our internal processes immediately. There are processes.
Processes and protocols and standards.
We will check our internal processes immediately so that this does not happen again. Please excuse this error. I should say this about Germany. and I say this in a country, America, which I believe, sadly, we paper over a lot of our history. I know that there are efforts to, and in certain pockets, successful efforts to remember some of the things this country's been involved in that are pretty heinous. But in any case, to Germany, they do a really good job of taking Kristallnacht seriously and taking remembrances of the Holocaust seriously, even as Nazism is again rising in Germany.
Especially in the East, in like Dresden and Leipzig. When I was there, they have like weekly marches that are basically like skinhead, anti-immigrant marches. So it still exists. It still
it's
exists.
Alive and well. There are a lot of memorial events, though, and discussions to reflect their ongoing concern about the way Jews were treated, and even more details about all of that. So that happens on the anniversary of Kristallnacht. And so it's really just weird, and clearly not somebody who's in Germany who came up with this Kristallnacht promotion. So
maybe they thought it meant like Christmas market or something.
The fast food chain said the automated push notification was linked to calendars that included national observances. I see. So that was.
Do you know what that means?
It was linked to birthdays. I'm sorry, we didn't even know what. But that's
Happy
that's
birthday,
the latest
Adolf
Hitler.
No.
Oh, there you go.
Well, when you said KFC was going to apologize, I thought you just meant in general.
Yeah. There is a lot to apologize for. All right, when we come back, I will round out the politics. We'll check in on these races. Look, they're taking a long time to even make counts on races in California. In Los Angeles, the mayoral competition, that may go until tomorrow, end of day, but we will see. But we'll check in on Nevada, Arizona. As you know, everything's in a deadlock pretty much. The Georgia situation will go to runoff. As Jim Avila said yesterday, well, I'll share what Jim said with you if you missed it about the runoff. I'll share that with you when we come back. And we will acknowledge the so many who've made contributions. Smash the like button, and if you want to help us out, hit a super sticker or super chat. We'll get to all of those next. Mark Thompson Show on YouTube.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 88 Tax Deal. Former President Trump says he is not angry about the results of the midterm elections. On Truth Social, Trump said he did a great job. Although he wasn't on the ballot, he said he's looking forward to the future, a remark coming just a few days after he teased a big announcement set for next week. That report contradicts other reports that Trump was screaming and blaming his wife as the candidates that he backed went down in flames. California is playing a major role in the balance of power in Congress, and at least 11 of the 52 House races are still too close to call this morning. The most competitive are said to be in the Los Angeles area and in the Central Valley. The candidates may be waiting several more days to find out if they won, as millions of votes are still being processed and counted. Ballots can arrive to election headquarters all over the state up to a week after Election Day. So we have to be patient, wait for that count. Very strong wind, heavy rain hitting Florida as Hurricane Nicole is now a tropical storm. But Governor Ron DeSantis is expanding the state of emergency to all counties now because he says he's just not sure what the storm's impacts will be. Already in Florida, some 300,000 customers are without power. COVID deaths are down 90% across the globe. The Director General of the World Health Organization said fewer than 10,000 COVID deaths were reported last week. That compared to 75,000 in February. He said the numbers are cause for optimism, but warned governments and communities continue to be vigilant in preventing COVID. California could soon levy a tax on oil companies. Is anyone upset about that? Governor Gavin Newsom plans to hold a special legislative session in December to focus on a windfall profits tax. Potential targets include Chevron and Valero. The Governor Newsom saying the oil companies are the reason California's gas prices are higher than the rest of the country. And social media giant Twitter officially launching their new subscription service. It's Twitter Blue. It allows
They're
users...
looking at their social media.
Yeah, they are looking at it. It's called Twitter Blue, allowing users to pay for a check mark on their account, indicating they've been verified. So the new subscription version costs $7.99 a month, $7.99. It'll also include an edit function, a priority in replies and mentions, and fewer ads. The new Twitter owner, Elon Musk, says the goal of this thing is to reduce the volume of harmful accounts on the platform. But users say, wait a minute, it does the exact opposite, with multiple parody accounts paying for the service and then impersonating celebrities and journalists as well. So maybe not so successful after all. And because this is the season, the famous Rockefeller Center Christmas tree will be put up in New York City this Saturday. Officials cut down the 82-foot tall tree from upstate New York. Some 50,000 LED lights will shine on that tree when it is lit during the annual tree lighting ceremony at the end of this month. And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, please call Steve, 888-TAX-STEAL, or you can catch him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
What up, everybody? Good to have everyone in the mix. Wow! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Tess Downey.
Tess.
I don't know what to say. I'm going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry, but I'm close to it.
Big shout out.
The biggest shout out to Tess Downey. $100 donation. I'm going to cry.
Wait, there's more.
I'm not gonna cry.
Well, and a super sticker for $50. Come on, Tess. I could have hugged you.
I'm not gonna cry.
Oh,
Tess won the Mega Millions.
Tess has vaulted to the top of my "What have you done for me lately" list, and that is a really
big shout out.
A big shout out to Tess Downey. Karen, whoa, hey Tess, I was about to challenge everyone to up the ante. Brava, Karen Cooper, $50. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. Cooper. Big shout out to Karen.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Karen. That's so cool. $4.99 for Jim Slayton, who's a regular listener.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I've never seen
Smash it, Jim.
Like
thank you.
Smash it. William Geip with a super sticker for $3. Thank you. Truly great. Thank you, William. You're a great supporter of the show. We appreciate it. These are ongoing supporters. Ann Gilbertson with $19.99.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ann, so much for $19.99. Appreciate that. You can make a contribution if you're watching the stream. You can do it with a super chat. You can also do it with a super sticker, as you just saw. Elwin, a daily listener, daily contributor. Elwin, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much. Appreciate the $4.99, sir. You're really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody who has supported us this way. It's always hard to just say a word about this or try to be honest with you about stuff going on to sort of figure out if the initial enthusiasm will hopefully sustain us for a while. So it's really great to have a big push because I know that, maybe after a month or so.
Yvonne says the iron rods are selling out at Home Depot.
The iron rods are used to smash the light.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I must tell you one thing. We got an interesting, did I get rid of it already? No, I've got it. You'll appreciate this then. You can text in to the chat live. Or you can also text in comments, as I've mentioned to you, even if you're watching in delay. You're watching later.
Why don't you just text it?
So here is what somebody said yesterday. I told you we watch this stuff and we try to respond and all this sort of stuff. Becky says, loving the show, except for the smashing of the rod lady. She irritates me.
Oh, how do you not love her, Becky? She's awesome.
I'm glad you have an alternative voice now with the guys. Oh, the guy's voice on Smash. I've got Smash It.
Smash.
Yeah.
Smash.
Yeah.
Smash.
Yeah, who doesn't love
Absolutely
Michelle
smash.
Bachmann?
Smash.
Yeah, that's Michelle Bachmann. I don't see how you cannot like her.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I mean,
that might be a fundraiser.
That's a brand of crazy.
Contribute to get rid of the job.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Also, do you really need to say, what is this? Do you really need to say, people's names of the donation? It cuts into our mark time. Just list it.
That's the point of the super chat, is that you can mention.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I really enjoy you interacting with the show, Becky and Steve both. We love our interaction with our audience, and audience that's contributed to us. I feel really I want to interact with them, so I will always acknowledge, always acknowledge that and then I will move on. But this is impossible, what I was about to say. But if I one day was just, there was a deluge, literally everything was one contribution after another, after another, after another. I don't know, we got hundreds of them or something on some big event we were doing or whatever. I would take the whole show to acknowledge every single person. That's how committed I am to how important it is to keep the show on the air that way. And so I'm afraid, this is the way it's going to be, because I think people, I think that's right. Yvonne is right. People's names are great and they need acknowledgement. And I couldn't agree more. I'm 100% on that. If you make a contribution, you will be recognized somehow. We scroll all the Patreon names at the end of the show, and those people who have contributed more in Patreon and are monthly subscribers at a higher amount, their names are big. And everybody who supported us, everybody's name is on there, though. And we're, it's...
Let me lay it on the line for you and your boss, whoever he is.
Johnny Fontaine is never getting that movie. But if Johnny Fontaine contributed, he would be recognized.
I think people need to know how much we appreciate it. We really are thankful. One of the texters, K Plant, says we need to sell an iron rod on the Mark merch site. Others say, though, shipping is going to be too expensive on that iron rod.
I don't think you want to sell a potential weapon.
Right, exactly. I'm not a big iron rod supporter per se, but I am a big smash the like button supporter.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah, but Jim, I saw that in the chat, doesn't like the iron rod either. Well,
Colonel Mustard in the study with the Mark Thompson branded iron rod.
Iron rod. Maybe an imitation iron rod, but anyway. So Kim, we don't have, and John as well, we just don't have results on any number of critical elections. I mean, we're in the balance is the House and the Senate. Now, there is a thin but not completely ridiculous path by which the Democrats could retain House control. It's not likely, though. There are many more paths to GOP dominance of the House, even if it's a thin dominance at that. I'll tell you, by the way, one of the huge reasons that the GOP is going to take the House, if they do, and I think, as I say, it's likely, it's because of what Democratic state is giving up all of these seats that might actually enable GOP dominance in the House. I ask you in the chat, what Democratic state is giving up so many seats because of a redistricting? It was a high-profile series of races. Any guesses? There were a handful of seats given up, and that's all you need, possibly and potentially, for GOP control. Lillian, you are right. Lillian, put Lillian on the screen if you would. There it is, David Odell, Lillian. It is New York. That's right. And by the way, this isn't wrong. California, Joan, is key. The seats haven't been given up yet, but it is true that California as well represents the potential for losses that would put the GOP in control of the House. I mentioned New York, though, because New York is thought of traditionally as a Democratic state. But if you get outside of Manhattan...
Yeah, this is probably like Long Island, right?
Exactly.
This is probably like Chris Cuomo's neighborhood.
It's Long Island and upstate. Okay, it's Long Island. It's Kristallnacht.
Well, it's like the coast in California versus the Central Valley.
That's
right?
exactly right.
The inland areas that you think California is a blue state, and then you go drive through Redding and see all the Trump signs in everyone's yard.
Or
That's
the
right.
northeast corner of the state. Did you see that?
Sure.
Every map, it's like, no, not voting for that.
Yeah, it's that's why I always talk about California as ungovernable on that level, if for no other reason than the intense partisanships and factionism that is, I think it just dominates politics to the point that, it's very hard to ride herd over that bucking bronco that is California. In New York, though, again, the gerrymandering and the redrawing of districts is what put everything in play. You've got the chairman of the DCCC. He's the guy who controls everything, for these congressional seats. He's part of the strategy meetings associated with trying to retain congressional control of the House. He lost. So you get how the upstate rural areas in New York, and as John mentioned, Long Island, et cetera, outside of Manhattan, Democrats on much thinner ice. Anyway, that is a key factor, and California is another. So those who guess California, you're right as well. We won't have results on the Senate race we won't have results on the U.S. Senate race in Nevada or in Arizona until when? They're saying tomorrow, or what's the situation on that? I mean, this is another thing. These close races, they take longer. Yeah, because one of the things I was watching on, I did this literally just so I could mention what's his name, Tucker Carlson was doing. I don't watch that show. It makes me so.
He's a real
watching any of those guys. It's what's that?
He's a real stand-up guy.
Yeah, he's. It's like having my head held underwater watching them. I just get so anxious. And last night I watched some of it because I thought I wanted to relate to you during this, as I say, inflection moment in our politics. I wanted to see what Fox News was doing. Also, as so many were turning on Trump, I was curious about whether or not Tucker would as well. It was more about other stuff. He was more attacking Democrats, but I'll tell you what he started with. He started with, and you could see how, in a sense, it was a broadside to Trump, even by not mentioning Trump's name. He said, what is it with Florida that they can have an election, have it resolved by 7 o'clock at night, and no other state can do it that quickly? The efficiency of the election system in Florida, and Ron DeSantis' Florida, in effect, that's not reflected in other states across America. Why is that? He asked the question. Of course, when there's not a close election, it's a lot easier to come up with the result more quickly, right? Because you reach a threshold by which other candidates can't catch up, and you can declare the election not over, but you can declare the winner. Obviously, the ballots are still being counted.
Well, and in Florida, if there's alcohol involved, maybe it's like 1, 2, skip a few. Like, we know how this is going.
Yeah, it is.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol
there
involved.
wasn't in this. I mean, it may have been involved, but in this case, DeSantis is actually well liked in Florida. That's why he stands a reasonable chance at making the White House run. I mean, making a successful White House run. I'll tell you something else about Ron DeSantis. He's trouble because they were able to take care of the right to lifers, you know what I mean? Those who want to take away women's reproductive rights, but they did it without the kind of Mississippi, deep red state ruthlessness, what is proposed by Herschel Walker in Georgia, a full ban on abortion. This conversation is still being had. They didn't have that conversation in Florida. Instead, DeSantis had that 15-week ban, which I think is more in line with kind of the general course of things. Kim, you could probably weigh on this better than I. But so believe me, I loathe that all being codified in any way. And I really feel as though women should have a right to make decisions over their own bodies. But what I am making as a point politically is that DeSantis was clever enough and strategic enough not to go in heavy with an all-out ban. I think that would have cost him politically enormously in Florida. Instead, he, as I say, played the ban, but played it as a reasonable 15-week kind of ban. Yeah. I noticed when I drove across the country that rural areas have lots of right-wing radio stations constantly drumming that if you're a liberal, you're a socialist and a communist, says John Watson. Well, I'm sure that's true. I mean, most of talk radio is right-wing. So you don't have to go on a treasure hunt or drive across the country to find it. Most political talk.
The company that we worked for basically has the same exact lineup in every market across the country. It's just carbon copy of the same right-wing shows. So imagine KSFO and just clone it and put it in hundreds of different markets. It's the same exact show, and there's no staff. There's no local staff. They don't have to spend any money.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in this next go-round. It's already started this next go-round. What if Kayleigh wins? What if these Trump candidates, what if Laxalt pulls it out? It's a different kind of day. But I did want to give you a little of what Trump is saying through Maggie Haberman, and she's a super insider. And I'll do that after I read this. Katie Lynch says, last night Jimmy Kimmel pointed out that Las Vegas can keep up with the current score on any athletic competition in the world, but it takes them 5 days to count their votes. Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of criticism about the voting process. And by the way, some of that may be legit, I mean, they pick the winners on American Idol and Dancing with the Stars overnight, but they also don't have the care with which they have to proceed in an election process or the scrutiny which usually accompanies any close election.
You don't think Ryan Seacrest is there like at night with his magnifying glass, like looking at the
I think he's barely there during the day with his when they actually do the I just find the
get these
I thought I had an American Idol thing. There it is.
Well, he has a busy week, Yeah,
he does.
You got to get the mani-pedi. Go to Nobu.
He's got a lot going on. It's true. Yeah.
Well, you get these races that are so close, and it can come down to just a couple thousand votes. And then you have all the mail-in ballots now, which I think is great, but they have to be postmarked by election day, which means they could still be arriving. So I think you got to give people a break and let the count go on as long as the count needs to go on so that all the voices are heard. One thing I noticed about this election, as far as news coverage, was usually they just have, Senate, House races and governor's races up on the national screen. An addition this year was the Secretary of State races in each state, because now we see how important that office is. That's huge. And if you get these Trumpers into that office, then, that could be a game changer. I was very proud to see Raffensperger retained in Georgia.
Yeah, Kim is so right about this, that all of a sudden these nameless, faceless people have become important names and important faces in our politics. The certification of an election, which had fairly, I think in the past, been pro forma, just a routine. Pro forma, I suppose, is a ding word. It's now taken on this controversy, and, what went down in Georgia was, that was an attempted coup. You have Trump and Graham and others leaning on that Secretary of State to phony up votes to carry Trump to victory. By the way, we were talking before about Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Ron Johnson set on a list of fake electors. That's how deep into the coup Ron Johnson is an outlaw. And Ron Johnson was part of one of the biggest, maybe the biggest Medicare frauds in history. It's astounding to me that guy won in Wisconsin, except for the fact that it's something about the politics up there.
Google it.
So he was part of that. So all of a sudden, what Kim's talking about became really important. You had to lean back on a lot of people who were leaning pretty hard on you, and that's what the Secretary of State did in Georgia. Here's Haberman on what was going on in Trump land yesterday.
For some people, it was disappointing, but I did well, was essentially his tweet. And that's also not true, by the way. Like, he did well in some places. Privately, according to multiple people I talked to, he was very angry. The focal point of his anger was the Oz race in particular, because that was not a natural fit for him, and he was convinced to do it. And of course, he never takes responsibility for any of his own decisions.
My wife wants
some staff are today. And I think this is something that I heard a lot of complaining about from people around him yesterday. You know, his aides who are in his world, paid aides, are all insisting nothing's wrong, status quo, everything goes forward. Other people are saying, how many years are we going to spend blaming it on staff? And I think you are going to hear more of that as we go forward.
It's wild how these people surround themselves with yes people, you know? And so you live in your own bubble of yes.
Well, you can appreciate that, Mark, can't you?
Not enough. I think we need more yes around here, to be perfectly honest. And I didn't want to bring it up to anyone, but I'm saying that...
yes, sir, Mr. Thompson, sir.
Yeah,
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
No, exactly. I don't apologize for it. A little more ass kissing around here would be a nice thing.
Maybe Kim can bring out the whip.
Yeah, well, right.
No, that's the opposite of what's needed, I think.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, not always. That's not always the case.
Yeah. Here is Kayleigh McEnany. I mean, super Trumper, insider, now GOPer, offering thoughts on Fox as to what should happen moving forward. Listen to her back away from Trump. I mean, it's a remarkable thing. Asked about whether or not Trump should go to key races that are going to runoff, like Georgia.
Trump? I think he needs to put it on pause. Look, he'll make that decision. He'll make his own decision. But
does he go to Georgia?
If I'm advising any contender...
Yeah, so essentially she's asked just to, should Trump declare, in other words, as was planned on November 15th, should he declare that he's entering the presidential race? And so she starts with I think he should put it on pause.
Trump? I think he needs to put it on pause. Look, he'll make that decision. He'll make his own decision. But
does he go to
if
Georgia?
I'm advising any contender, DeSantis, Trump, whomever, no one announces 2024 until we get through December 6th.
Do you see the former president, a need for him to go to Georgia?
I think we've got to make strategic calculations. Governor DeSantis, I think he should be welcome to the state, given what happened last night. You got to look at the realities on the ground. And Herschel Walker, we've got to win the Senate. That's it, guys. Got to win the Senate.
And she's right about the Senate, and she's right about the fact that DeSantis is the winner, and the politics of DeSantis, the style of DeSantis, that's really likely to carry the day more than the style of Trump and the politics of Trump.
Ron DeSanctimonious.
Yeah, Ron DeSanctimonious may take him down.
Maybe the GOP should create this Truman Show for Trump with fake rallies and fake TV studios.
Put him in a bubble.
Yeah, just knock him out and then send him up to North Dakota somewhere and set this up.
Yeah, no, it's true. He is very affected by those things going on around him, but he also he looks at those New York papers. So the fact that the Daily News and the Post took him down and, they just raked him over the coals, that was a very big deal for Donald Trump. And he's having some serious decisions. Now, again, he'll never step back in any kind of gracious way. So if you're waiting for that, it's just not going to happen. What else did I want to touch on? John, help me with
the news.
Oh, is it that late already? Wow, it is. Oh my God. Thank you for all the ways you support us. Please smash the like button like a boss. Smash it
with your iron rod.
And make it a part of your day. However you are listening or watching, we appreciate it. All the ways you can support this show, and you can see them all. PayPal and Patreon and all the rest at themarkthompsonshow.com. And of course, you can contribute in real time here on YouTube, super chat, super stickers. And if you're watching on delay, there's a little heart with a $sign in it, and you can donate that way. Yeah, YouTube takes a chunk, but it also makes it easy for us to get donations that way. So we're happy to do it. So thank you, everybody who is a part of things today and supporting us. And we'll read more comments, and we'll take stock of the contributions. Next hour, we talk about the COP27 conference. That's the UN Summit on Climate Change. There's some good news out of that and some fascinating big U.S. news out of that has to do with our administration, our government, and climate change. Mark Thompson Show, glad you are here. We are live on YouTube.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at tax deal. About 70,000 mail-in ballots have yet to be counted in Nevada's largest county. All ballots cast in person on Election Day have been counted, except for about 5,000 provisional ballots. Clark County planning to update election results daily as the nation waits on the outcome of its races for governor and Senate. Hurricane Nicole, still a large tropical storm, so it's not a hurricane yet, but expected to weaken over the next day. The National Hurricane Center says West Central Florida is already feeling the impacts of that storm with maximum sustained winds of miles per hour. Sharp increases in airfare may be impacting travel demand for the holiday season. New data from Adobe Analytics showing consumers have booked fewer flights for Thanksgiving week than they did 3 years ago, just before the pandemic. Domestic bookings are down 7% from the same time in 2019. The Boulder Police Department in Colorado turning its investigation into JonBenet Ramsey's death over to a state panel for review. Boulder's police chief announced the Colorado Cold Case Review Team will look at the investigation next year. The 6-year-old girl was found dead in her family's home in 1996. Big birthday today for one of our nation's military branches known as the few, the proud, the Marines. The United States Marine Corps celebrating 247 years of serving and protecting our nation on land, in the air, and at sea. That military branch dates back to 1775 with the forming of 2 battalions of the Continental Marines in Philadelphia during the American Revolutionary War. There is a Missouri-based company. It's the exclusive U.S. distributor for a product designed to deter thieves by providing a cloud of fog. Very mysterious. Density USA will install its first anti-theft fogging devices next week. Its founder saying the product has been in use internationally for 10 years now. It's activated when a potential thief breaks in, and it takes about 45 minutes for the fog to date. And of course, Elon Musk is ending remote work at Twitter. Everybody's got to come into the office. Those that are left. In his first email to employees after buying the social media company, Musk said they'd be expected to be in the office for at least 40 hours a week. This comes after laying off half the company employees last week. The move similar to directives at Musk's other companies, SpaceX and Tesla. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, you can reach Steve at 888-TAX-STEAL or online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Feels great, baby.
It's unbelievably offensive. Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
What he's got going here is a situation.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
You cannot say you love your country.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my stupid sons and daughters.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Don't make us beg. Subscribe, like, and share. The Mark Thompson Show.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Why are you yelling?
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
Where are my weed smokers at?
Woo! What up, everybody? It is hour 2. So glad you could join us. I'm Mark Thompson. We got the full crew for you, don't we? Yeah, we've got fabulous producer John Daly.
John Daly.
And no need to say it. And Kim is...
Kim, how are you?
Yes, in that gorgeous living room, which changes every day. If you hadn't noticed it, we got somebody who wrote in and said, I really don't think it's a good idea for Kim to show her luxurious living room because it'll discourage donations. That's not really her living room. If you can watch, one episode to the next.
I wish it was my living room. That's not my living room.
Why are you yelling?
I'm just saying it's, but yeah, it's, you have to kind of be hip to it to realize it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. Andreas Musaras? Andreas with $100 donation? Andreas, don't make me cry.
I'm not gonna cry! I'm not gonna cry!
I'm not going to.
Wait, there's more.
I'm not done with Andreas. I'm really not done with Andreas. Another $20 from
Big shout out.
Oh my God, the biggest shout out. Thank you, Andreas.
I'm not gonna cry! I'm not gonna cry!
I'm not going to. But I am legitimately and sincerely on behalf of everyone so grateful. Thank you. Look, all amounts matter, but wow, when somebody steps up like that, we give them a special shout out. Felicity Everino, $49.99, right on. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Karen Q with $19.99. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's so cool, Karen Q. Jim Avila, he get all the love from the first. Don't make me cry, Jim. You got so much love.
Big shout out
in the first hour. They all love Jim Avila. They loved his takes, and now look at that. He's in the chat, so he's oftentimes a participant in the chat. Yeah, I'm not saying
you need to give Jim a super sticker.
Yeah,
How
we
do that.
$9.99. Well, I don't know. He does. Well, when he comes on the show, we get a little bit more of a, So really, really cool. Jim Avila, we love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jumping on the bandwagon, says Mike Blumenkrantz, $8.10. I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out.
Yeah, big shout out. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that very, very much. Wow, you can contribute in all those ways, the super chats, the super stickers, and as I say, through Patreon, and you can become an ongoing supporter at themarkthompsonshow.com. There are clicks through to PayPal if you want to do that, or a Patreon membership, etc. But here on YouTube, they just make it easy. That's why we really understand that YouTube takes something for the platform, but it just makes the contribution process so much more seamless, frankly. So that's why it's really cool. Can you buy a Mark Movado watch? Well, you can get one at Sam's.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam's.
That's right. So I want to, where is he's got a thing, doesn't he, where he says, I used to have a whole run from him. I don't know where it is, but I've got it still, so I'll give it to you. One of our music things has his, I want to knock down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters when he's pitching his congregation. So the Movado watch comes out of that.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam's.
Yeah, and you can buy the KJO and Exile t-shirts at the Get Mark merch site. Again, all the proceeds go to keep the show going. It's a black one here, but we also have the white ones. And you can see the very attractive Mark Thompson Show tote bag, everyone. Yes, by the way, I got some photos. I'll share them tomorrow on our Friday show of different people with the KJO and Exile t-shirt. Wear the rebellion, my friends. Wear the rebellion. Get a KJO and Exile t-shirt and wear the rebellion. You can get it at getmarkmerch.com. I wanted to... Oh, there it is. Who's it from, though, John? That's...
I wasn't expecting you to ask that.
I don't.
Fabulous producer John Daly.
Don't put her email address up there. What are you doing?
It's from Deb.
Thank you, Deb.
Cosentino. Yeah.
My God. Don't put your email address up there, John. What are you doing?
What is happening?
Oh, my God, John. Well.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
All right. So let's, very cool.
Some John Daly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we got positive letters.
We got some positive letters, and I got one from Vince. I got a really cool email from Vince with his picture of him before fight night wearing. Doggone it! I thought I had it.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I'll find it and we'll run it tomorrow, Vince. You're a great supporter. I love that you were rocking the T-shirt before. He's kind of there with his crew, and he's got the KJO and Exile T-shirt on. It's a really great picture, and I'll show it to you tomorrow. And tomorrow, of course, we've got Florida. You've been so good pushing Florida stories to us. There's one Florida story that has been pushed to us more than any other Florida story. And many of the stories we get are from you when it comes to Florida. So we've gotten one in particular pushed to us more than any other. And I'll share that story and tell you which one tomorrow. We do Friday Fabulous Florida around 10:35. I'm just looking at some of the texts. Yeah. So let's, I wanted to, just as we were talking about why the media missed this, we mentioned that a little bit in the first hour. There's a really good piece on the biggest loser of the midterm elections, the media. This is a column out of the Washington Post. Dana Milbank, who's been on the show before, did this piece. He says, we don't know yet precisely who won the 2022 midterms, but we certainly know who lost. And he says, I'm sorry, but it's my colleagues in the political press. They blew it. The headlines coming in Tuesday's elections almost uniformly predicted a Democratic wipeout, Milbank says. Here's just a small sampling. The bottom is dropping out of the 2022 election for Democrats. Democrats on defense in blue states. Brace for a red wave in the House. Red tsunami watch. The Republican wave is building fast. Democrats fear midterm drubbing as party leaders rush to defend the seats. Why the midterms are going to be great for Donald Trump. Breaking down the GOP's midterm momentum. These are all headlines. And he says, I pulled those headlines from the Post, the New York Times, CNN, Axios, and Politico. But the rest of the news media called it much the same way. I was baffled. What were they seeing that I, and more important, the Democratic operatives I spoke with, weren't seeing? Back in mid-August, I wrote a column titled, Why the Red Wave Might End Up Being a Ripple. So Dana Milbank essentially has taken a victory lap, which he deserves to be able to take, on the fact that, hey, I said it, just like Avila, who we had on yesterday, was saying it for a long time, and it was really a lone cry in the night, as I mentioned. Not many people were saying it. Democrats may not have this red wave to worry about. I noted that Democrats had pulled even on the generic ballot, which party voters prefer for Congress at a time in the cycle when the incumbent president's party is almost always losing ground. Democrats standing receded slightly since then, but the contest remained extremely tight, he's saying. So what happened? Political journalists were suckered by a wave of Republican junk polls in the closing weeks of the campaign. They were also swayed by some reputable polling organizations that, burned by past failures to capture MAGA voters, overweighted their polls to account for the MAGA voters. I talked about this yesterday, the way polling is done. They don't get every individual to answer a poll. We were talking with Avila, you'll recall, yesterday about the fact that polling is weighted for that which they don't actually have firm data for. It's an amazing thing. Imagine, you think of a poll, you think of a clinical experiment, you think of anything that's beta tested, where you have an A and B group even. You have a control group and you have the one get. You wouldn't dream of just kind of filling in the blanks, if it's done well, on a scientific experiment. And polls are supposed to be scientific, but they are done, these political polls, weighting those gaps.
This is the same way Nielsen does radio ratings.
Yeah, by the way, that's true. You know, the radio and television ratings are done with just little. I think with Nielsen, it's just how many? Hundreds of people? Maybe
yeah, I think there are more panelists
people?
with television, but with radio, there aren't that many. And because of the pandemic, they didn't send out the little devices that monitor what you're listening to. So you had these like half full panels, and they were just extrapolating the data.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that COVID thing. So during the pandemic, they didn't even send them out.
Supply chain, they didn't have the chips. Remember the chips?
Right. What they do in radio ratings, just to fill out John's point, is they give, I don't know what it is now. You strap it to your wrist. Is that what you do?
It's like a pager-like device that monitors what you're listening to. It kind of works like Shazam.
And the idea is that when you change radio stations or listening to something else, that it's picking that up and identifying it. So you get credit for that. The problem with radio is that there's so few, if you've watched, there's so few people who are being sampled that it's impossible to actually get an accurate sense of who's listening. If you watch CNN or Fox News or any of these big panels or ABC, they have probably more people on that panel at the desk as analysts than they have Nielsen ratings evaluating which radio station you're listening to. I mean, it really is very few. So if you get one person who listens to The Bone, let's say, in San Francisco, then The Bone is going to do a spiked up number. If you have one person listening to literally one person who is a regular KGO listener, that spikes KGO. It's an insane
It also depends
system.
on your ethnicity. So, like, if you're Latino, you could represent 350 people. But if you're like
Asian,
I was
wrong. Period.
Yeah, you could represent like 700 people in the same area.
Yeah. An extraordinary profusion. Profusion is, would you say a ding word?
No.
No?
You dang it. You dung it?
I danged it. I danged it, man.
I don't know if I would have dinged it.
Profusion?
All right.
I think that would show up on an SAT exam, don't you think? Profusion?
I think we need like a grand jury for the ding words.
Yeah, we do need. I'll appeal to the chat.
I'm
if you think
ambivalent. I'm ambivalent for that.
if you think it was wrong, you can say so. See, I
was wrong. Period.
I will ding ambivalent and profusion, but I think profusion is way more dingable than ambivalent. But you're probably right. Both of them probably cleanly get into the end zone and get dinged.
But you can't base it on the words you know now. You have to think about like when you were in high school, like what words you'd have to study, right? For the SAT.
Right. That's what I'm. Mark is so animated, his webcam has to keep refocusing. Sorry about that.
Jump around.
No, Immortal Tiger says, a regular viewer listener, no on profusion. Yvonne is yes on profusion. No from Ricky O'Bear. TG says yes, ding. Steve Becker says pro. So these are all, it's
everyone's got an opinion,
Yeah. Anyway, I'm in a. Oh, that's the glasses back on. I think profusion and ambivalent both get it. Anyway, there was a profusion, is what we were saying, of these bad partisan polls. And late in the campaign, Milbank's making the point that media organizations were flooded by all of these bad polls, partisan polls. And instead of discounting them or in some way ignoring them, the media ran with them. And I would say this to be fair about the media. I think that there is a limited, when you're playing the horse race, a limited database. And so
they're looking at just social media.
I'm not talking about, and social media too, but I'm talking about the reporting. And so you end up almost having to report on these polls. They're coming out daily, and then the media loop just is fed and fed and fed. It's a frustrating and I would say flawed system. And so media has to, we have these conversations after every election. After they missed the Trump wave, we had this same conversation, how they could have missed it. And so now they've overcompensated and oversteered so that they can integrate the MAGA crowd. That's what Dana Milbank is saying. And it went too far over. So these are the conversations they're having. The media
the business
definitely
model is not to present the best information. The media, the model is to get the most eyeballs, right?
That's
as
right.
You compare it to the BBC or to NPR, PBS.
Even NPR was saying red wave, But and I've got to say, even PBS was saying. I mean, we've sort of somehow elevated NPR and PBS, perhaps justifiably on certain things.
But that need for that data is fueling it, right? The corporate media are sponsoring these polls.
Right.
Washington
That's
ABC
absolutely true.
poll,
That's
blah, blah, blah.
Washington Post, ABC.
They're creating this demand for this information. We need it now.
But there's still, within the polling system, they are weighting certain unknowables in ways that
right, because somebody's paying them a lot of money to do it.
Well, that too. They need the poll to come up with answers. I mean, we're also an insta-poll society. I mean, after the Biden speech yesterday, there's polling. Happier after listening to Biden's speech. I mean, it's crazy, literally. So I think we become accustomed to it, and now that bad data has met a society that has a thirst for immediate result, and you end up with where we end up. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Welcome him into the mix. He is our Mac Daddy, my sugar daddy, Steve Moskowitz. He is the exclusive sponsor of the show. And I do love him. I was telling everybody, you weren't here, but when the show started, I was saying, it's so important to get sponsorships, and, they're approached by different organizations, and they're kind of questionable. I was talking about, when I say questionable, I mean, they're not elite sponsors like yourself. And I don't want to burden you with this, and I'll wrap this up quickly, except to say, I really was in this tough situation looking at how we were going to sustain ourselves. And when you stepped up and approached us and said, hey, I'll do it, and that's an elite sponsorship. You're 100% legit. You've helped people. You should see in the chat, people go, Steve helped me. I referred somebody else to him. Steve helped them. So it's really so great to have you on the show. I'll say that occasionally because I really believe it, and I'm excited that you are a regular part of our day. So thank you, Steve Moskowitz.
Well, Mark, thanks so much. I love being part of your show. I've been a fan since your TV days in LA and Fox, and I'm very happy and honored to be part of your show. And I think we can help so many people. It's like we've been talking about ERC, employee retention credit. Still to this day, there are people that don't believe it. And I'll talk to people and they say, no, that just sounds too good to be true. This is the federal government trying to help out small business. And they define small business as 500 employees and less, which is, 500 employees is pretty big to me. But the bottom line is the government is giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. And there's two different ways to qualify. One way is an real easy way. Did you have a certain drop in gross revenue? It's mathematical, yes or no, nothing to think about. 1 + 1 = 2. That's the right answer. Nothing else is. But if you don't meet that test, a lot of CPAs, a lot of people are saying, oh, that's it. No ERC for you. Goodbye. Not the case. The law says there's 2 tests and you only need to pass one of them. The other one's a lot more complicated. It's a facts and circumstances test. Though these circumstances rise to the level that will qualify you, we will take the time and the effort to work with you. And a lot of times I give clients homework where we talk and I say, well, it's some good stuff, but I need to know more. And I don't want to guess, go back and get me the information. And then we have a second meeting. And then I say, okay, now that we know the actual facts, we can make the determination. Of course, not everybody qualifies. But if you don't qualify, we'll tell you why. You'll know why, like a second opinion with a doctor. But if you do qualify, even though it's a far more complicated method, let's go ahead and get every dollar to which you're legally entitled, which is really important. On the other hand, we want to watch out for the scammers. There's been a tremendous amount of fraud in this program. The IRS is currently actively investigating that. And there's a lot of companies that just came into existence just to do ERC applications. And you're shaking your head, and that's right, you should be, because what's going to happen with them when the IRS has a few questions and you call up the guy and he said, well, what do you mean the phone's disconnected? Well, what do you mean there's no forwarding address? What happened to them? They vanished into the night. We, on the other hand, have been practicing tax law for over 30 years. We're here for you. And what I'm advising you is keep away from the extremes. Obviously, keep away from the scammers. You never, ever want to commit any type of fraud. You certainly don't want to commit a tax fraud. Of course not. On the other hand, you don't want to leave all kinds of money on the table. And again, although not everybody qualifies and everybody's fact circumstances differ, we've had individual clients that have gotten multi-million dollars and lots, hundreds of thousands of dollars and some smaller amounts. And again, it gets crazy. You have 50, 70,000, the smaller amounts. But even if it's, a few dollars, that's free money. You don't want to leave that on the table because somebody doesn't want to be bothered by sitting down and figuring out do you qualify or not. They're just mass producing things. The bottom line is we're here for you. We want to get you every dollar to which you're legally entitled.
I love it, Steve Moskowitz, the 888 tax deal. Did you have a question, Kim? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I had a comment and a question. First comment, I like your shirt today, Steve Moskowitz. The red and white stripes looks really, really nice.
Very
and
nice.
The question is not tax related, but has to do with the little kitty cat on the shelf behind you. And I wonder if there's a story about that.
Oh, yes. A dear friend of mine who I put his kids on TV. There were 2 adorable little kids and they were singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and that was my present for getting his kids on TV.
Oh, that's nice.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. I'm taking any other questions for Steve Moskowitz before I dismiss the witness, but I do want to tell everyone that he's 888 tax deal, 888 TAXDEAL. 888-TAX-DEAL is the phone number. You can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. You spell Moskowitz, MoskowitZ. It's MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, love you. Thank you, my friend.
Love you too. Thanks so much, guys.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm looking at the chat.
I have to point out we have 810 viewers right now.
Oh, that is it's a perfect day. Can you take a screenshot of that? Let me see if maybe I can take it. That is everybody's when one person drops off and now I'm at 809 and somebody grab it when they can. Grab it and send it to me. Calvin is in the chat. I'll tell you who Calvin is real quick because he's got the Calvin Wong. Help me win the lottery, he says. Calvin is, if I could give him an associate producer credit, I would. He sends me so much content. So it's really crazy that when I see his name now, I associate him with so much different content that he pushes our way. So thank you for always being a supporter, Calvin. We've covered the poison that is Trump and talking about the election and unpacking what's going on. But before you get too excited, those who would love to see Donald Trump go away, there are still some important races, and there are Trump supporters who are involved in those races, most specifically Kayleigh. Now, we're not going to have results out of Arizona probably until... Is it tomorrow? I'm seeing changing reports on that. But meanwhile, here in California, you saw the props that got blown out. I mean, Prop 27 was blown out on a record level. And think about all the spending that went into that. That's the gambling provision. Both gambling provisions went down in a big way. Recreational weed is now legal in 21 states. Yeah.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Well, I don't know where they are now, but they can go to 21 different
states.
Yeah. That is a pretty cool thing. Where it passed and where it was rejected. Was it rejected? My gosh.
What?
Yeah, apparently it was. Legalizing recreational marijuana was on the ballots in a handful of states for the midterms. District of Columbia, 2 other U.S. territories had legalized recreational marijuana in some form. Now Maryland and Missouri can join that list. You can get high in Maryland and Missouri if you want to, legally. Amendments to approve recreational use as well as to bring some changes in criminal law were passed. Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota. Yes or no, you think, on weed? Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota. If you guess no, give yourself a ding. Yeah, Arkansas, North Dakota, and South Dakota voters rejected their state's legalization
proposals. I'm sure
proposals.
there's weed smokers in South Dakota and North Dakota.
Oh, my God, yes. Are you? Goes without saying. Not all recreational legalization efforts were successful. Medical marijuana use already legal in all 5 of those states.
Well, in Arkansas, they don't inhale, remember?
That is, if they do, they blow it towards South Dakota. So what is the clicking I'm hearing? Is there something going on there? And is the sofa? Oh, the sofa's being installed now. Is that what's going on?
The sofa's here. The sofa's being installed.
Ron Johnson, everyone.
Yeah.
Actually, the battery to my mom's mouse has died, and I've got a newscast coming up. So there's there's some panic over here going on. I'm not going to lie.
That's okay.
There's a mad dash for batteries and things. So you just go ahead.
All right. Well, we can mute her. That way she can really start screaming and yelling for help. But Gen Z is in the House of Congress now. Did you see that? 25-year-old Democrat Maxwell Frost made history, became the first member of Gen Z to be elected to Congress.
Did you hear his speech?
No, what was it?
He said, click like and subscribe.
Come on, that's John Daly, everybody.
Yeah. Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Did he say smash it like a ball?
Smash it with your iron rod.
No?
All right. We're all good over here. Just
that's good. History was made tonight, he said, on not live. Where did he post history was made tonight? The new Gen Z congressperson posted it somewhere. Well, I'll ask the chat. Where did he post his opening remarks? The newest congressperson is just 25 from Gen Z. Want me to give you choices? He posted it either on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or on his personal website. We've got a TikTok guess. We've got a Twitter guess. Twitter's not one of the choices. TikTok, a lot of TikTok.
Gen Z doesn't know what Facebook is. That's like AM radio for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. John's right. It wouldn't probably be Facebook, everybody. A lot of TikTok. The answer is with Wes. Instagram, my friends. That's where he posted his historic comments. The 25-year-old said history was made tonight. He did this on his Instagram page. We made history for Floridians, for Gen Z, and for everyone who believes we deserve a better future. I'm beyond thankful for the opportunity to represent my home in the United States Congress.
And when he says everyone else, he's talking about millennials. Like the old people who use Instagram.
The old, don't count anymore, exactly. Yeah. Oh, she dropped out. That was her first dropout of the day, pretty much. What did you say? What did
and nothing important.
Okay.
Really insignificant. No, not worth repeating.
The young African American's victory marks a crucial moment for the progressive activist who came of voting age over the past decade, known for voicing his political stance on issues including gun violence and LGBTQ rights. So, I mean, he's someone who is out there in Florida with some feelings that don't necessarily jibe with red state politics. You know what I mean?
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
That's right. And he doesn't. So that was big news as we, again, unpack everything. My
mom just brought me cookies.
Oh, that's cool. No wonder you want to do the show from your mom's house.
I have to work over here every day. This is going to be a new thing.
Did Ron Johnson get any lemonade?
Ron Johnson.
No, he did not.
Everybody, yeah. Has the sofa been installed? I mean, has it?
No,
is
the
it,
sofa.
is that done?
I thought the sofa was here, but it's not
Been
yet
delivered?
here. So
Okay.
We'll see how that works.
I wanted to just skip around a little bit, but I thought that what's going on at Twitter deserves a note.
Then we have news and Belinda.
Oh, we do? What is it already? Oh my God, it's already late. God, that's incredible. I just don't believe it.
Do we have time for my mom to say
You're down
hi?
to 5% battery.
I have time for your mom always.
Say hi,
How
Mom.
is she?
Say hi. Hi. Yeah. there you
Hello.
go.
I love
Morning.
it. I love it. We hear it. Good morning. Nice to have you part.
Morning.
Have you part of things. Have your mom smash while she's here.
Oh my God.
Smash
Are
it.
you kidding me? Absolutely smash.
Absolutely. Smash, I would say.
Smash.
That's 3
smash.
smashes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 4 smashes. That's what you'd have to do. If you smash 4 times, because the first one will be a like, the second one will be unliking the like, the third one will be liking the like, the fourth one will be unliking, so you'd need to smash actually 5 times to hit the thumbs up. All right, Kim's News, and then the great Belinda. Next. This is the Mark Thompson Show. We are live on YouTube.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Senator Amy Klobuchar says Republicans underperformed in the midterm elections because Democrats, she said, had incredible candidates in the House and Senate. In an interview with CNN, the Minnesota Democrat said voters were motivated to cast a ballot due to the Supreme Court's decision on abortion and former President Trump's role in picking Republican candidates. She said the elections were a rejection of the orthodoxy of the Republican position. Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending a summit of leaders from the Group of 20 Nations next week in Bali. The Russian state media reports the nation's delegation will be headed by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov instead, but President Putin may take part in the conference virtually. Mask mandates are being linked to fewer COVID cases in schools. That's a new study. Researchers conducted a so-called natural experiment with 2 school districts in Boston, while all others lifted requirements last spring. Marijuana is not being legalized in Arkansas. Votes still being counted, but those against legalization are more than 10 points in front, with most ballots already counted. The result comes despite endorsements for recreational cannabis in recent weeks from famous figures like Snoop Dogg and golfer John Daly. Not our John Daly, the golfer.
No relation.
No relation. Arkansas joins North and South Dakota in voting against marijuana legalization yesterday. And Sotheby's, a fine arts company based in New York, is going to be auctioning off a T-Rex skull next month. So if you got an extra 15 mil laying around, you can put a bid on this. The skull has been named Maximus, and according to Sotheby's, the 200-pound skull is part of a T-Rex skeleton, which was discovered in South Dakota. The auction set for December 19th. Just the perfect Christmas gift, right? This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can reach him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
What up, everybody? It is another show. I just realized I was a bad host and I didn't tweet. I had the tweet loaded, but I literally just loaded the tweet that were on the air. I just tweeted it.
You need Alec Baldwin's help.
I do.
You're so naughty.
I do.
Locked and loaded.
Yeah. It was definitely not my best. The certain number of things, I don't have it down. I don't have, honestly, I don't have processes yet and protocols and standards. I have standards. We don't have processes and protocols.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Yeah, we have standards. We have the third. We just don't have. Wes, shout out to Wes. Come on, Wes.
Thank you.
$10 donation. Appreciate that. Evan K for $1.99. Thank you, Evan. Yeah. Very, very cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody who's made contributions. We've had some big ones today. We've had some small ones. Appreciate whatever you give us. Helps us keep the lights on. So, among the things we look forward to every week is our Thursday visit with this lady. By the way, before I bring her on, I just want to tell you, if you want to see the 810 people who were in the live chat, because that 810 matched the old radio station, KGO. You can get the KGO in Exile t-shirt behind me at getmarkmerch.com. But anyway, the 810 people were memorialized by Borrowed Carbon on Twitter. And you can see the picture. Thank you, Borrowed Carbon, for taking the picture. And I retweeted it. And you can find that tweet at Mark T Live. Or you can go to Borrowed Carbon, find it. Now I can bring her on. We used to have this sweet intro. Where is the intro with the... I'll have that, I promise, for next week. Because it's a regular segment that we do. We watch the planet. We watch the environment.
Stupid.
What's it? It's the planet, stupid.
The planet, stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, well done. She is our eco-journalist. She always tries to find the positive news in this grim world as we burn alive everything and everyone on this planet. But she finds somehow the good news in it all. She is eco-journalist Belinda Wayman. Yeah.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, my darling Belinda, with the most lovely voice and accent.
Thank you.
I know that there's a major climate conference going on. And there are a lot of ways to slice that. COP27, this UN summit, right?
Yes,
Tell us the positive way to slice it, and then I, of course, will offer always the negative way to slice it. But you do think that there's some positives that came out, yes?
Well, here's the thing. This is the 27th Conference of the Parties. That's what COP stands for. And there has never been more at stake than there is right now. And, what we have to, what we're seeing everywhere, all over the world, here, Pakistan being, a third of the country being underwater for months of this year, things are very serious. And there's a very serious atmosphere at COP because there's so much at stake. And the big thing right now is the money. Where is the money going to come from to help developing nations who didn't put the carbon into the atmosphere but are really bearing the brunt of climate change? And so, what happens, with funding is going to be, the crucial part of COP27 and if it's a success or not. And the funding part has to be taken really seriously because otherwise there won't be trust moving forward. And the thing that happened, Paris, which was, 7 years ago, that COP was seen as huge because, the countries of the world agreed we had to keep the heating of the planet to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Everyone agreed on that. Yes. And it was this huge success. And then the other thing that was agreed on then was that the developed countries of the world were going to be providing $100 billion in financial support to the developing countries of the world by 2020. Well, surprise, that didn't happen. Those monies, have not been paid out. There's been a little bit of it.
None of those monies have been paid out, or what do you mean when you say those monies have not been paid out? Like, really, that was all show and no go? Yeah.
There has not been $100 billion being provided, since 2020 to the developing countries of the world for the losses incurred from climate change damage, adaptation that they need, moving away from coastal areas, and then also the move to renewable energy. And so, the countries that are signing on and saying, yes, we have to do this, New Zealand, where I'm from, has said, we're going to give $20 million. Denmark, Belgium, France, Austria. But where are the big countries? Where's China? Where's the US in this? So there are three ways that we can help developing countries. One of them is with debt payment deferrals. And so one of the big players came in with their big thing this COP. The UK said, we're going to do climate resilient debt. They have this climate resilient debt clause, and it means that countries can stop their debt payments for 2 years if they've been hit by a climate disaster. So, okay, that's good. And then we have, so you've got the debt. When
they said debt referrals, that means they don't have to pay it now.
Yeah. So the UK is saying, hey, we're going to give people, we're going to give countries a 2-year, window. They don't have to pay anything if they've been hit by a climate disaster. But what countries really need, and what these smaller countries that I just, named, the Denmark, Belgium, New Zealand, Scotland, France, Austria, they're talking about direct funds to developing countries, which is really what they want. Pakistan needs direct funds right now to, clean up and cope with the flooding that just happened. The third way, and I'm bringing this up because this is what the U.S. government has come in.
Before you bring up the third way, let me just get this straight. Well, the direct funds you're talking about, is that happening, or you're saying that the pledged money, for example, you mentioned Britain or UK, will they defer that, or are they actually going to try to target it to Pakistan, which needs the money now, for example?
Well, this is the thing. This is the $100 billion that was pledged that the developed world would provide for the developing world by 2020. Every year there would be $100 billion put into the kitty by rich countries so that poorer countries, would be taken care of. And, this is the thing that I'm saying. This is just seen as such a crucial part of COP27 because, there'll be no trust if, countries don't say, yes, we're going to help you. So yesterday, Wednesday, John Kerry, our, climate czar, he came riding in and he announced this thing called the Energy Transition Accelerator. And sounds great. But what this is all about carbon offsets. So this is the third way that the developed world can help the developing world, can help finance it. And the interesting thing about this is that this is about private sector money being used to help countries transition off coal, transition to renewable energy. And what the private sector get in return for providing this funding is they get carbon offsets. So that's a thing that we've talked about before. And some people are crazy about carbon offsets because what that allows people to do, allows these companies to do, is get offsets for their, polluting, dirty ways. Now, one of the things that I think is good about the Energy Transition Accelerator is that fossil fuel companies cannot put up any money and say, okay, this offsets our pollution. And so what it does is, you pay a country to, not deforest, to not take out its mangrove swamps, which are huge, carbon sequestration devices, and they also protect a coastal area from, storms. So you pay the money to maintain those ecosystems, and then, you get this, this carbon offset. And I think it's, as John Kerry said, look, I've been talking about the climate since 1988, and it has to be all hands on deck. It has to be this many-pronged approach. There's not enough funds, countries don't have enough funds. We have to bring in the private sector, and this funding device is being developed with the Rockefeller Foundation and, wait for it, the Bezos Earth Fund.
Oh, the Bezos Earth Fund, of course.
Yeah, which, talking about the young millennial, who announced on, his win on Instagram. So, Bezos announced, on Instagram back in February of 2020 that he was going to be giving $10 billion to the planet for, the next 10 years. And that's just, those funds are just being released right now. There's almost $1 billion. What this, I think the thing is this Energy Transition Accelerator, in conjunction with all the other, mechanisms that we, that the world is talking about, putting in place, the idea is going in the right direction. And the idea is, provide trillions of dollars from the private sector to help countries transition off coal and to clean energy. But it's really, how.
Well, I guess I'm really torn here between being encouraged by the fact that they are stepping up and the private sector is stepping up as well. I think I'd suggest to you that on balance, Jeff Bezos has a tremendous responsibility as a result of essentially being an outlaw as a polluter with the, the phoniness about recycling when it comes to the Amazon clutter,
Yeah.
And a business that's successful with that kind of revenue, they can afford to really step up. So in a way, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have the money from anywhere to help with mitigating climate disasters and mitigating climate change, but Bezos is doing a little bit of greenwashing with that, in my judgment. And more to the point, though, these governments, they must step up and actually not just, as you suggested, with a carbon offset, let themselves off the hook. It's not about buying your way out of it. You need to really change policy. I understand that's a slow process. Sadly, we can't have a slow process. There's an urgency in this entire thing that is quite intense.
Yeah, well, this is you hit the nail right on the head, Mark. I mean, this is go time. I mean, it's so serious what's happening right now. And I do think that these governments are really aware of it. And I think, the money thing is always going to be hard. I mean, the direct funds, which I think, they're more, what these countries need. Rich countries fear that they're going to be on the hook for huge amounts of compensation. And, obviously when everyone first started industrializing and burning coal, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, there were scientists who in the 1800s were saying we're going to change, the chemistry of the atmosphere with all this carbon dioxide. There was one scientist, I can't recall his name right now. And we have known for 50 plus years how, dangerous what we've been doing is, and the fossil fuel companies have known. I have to tell you one thing that is so wild. There are 600 fossil fuel lobbyists at COP27 this year.
That to me, yeah. So this isn't again. Yeah, go ahead.
25% more than they were at the last conference. I mean, it's so brazen, and they say there are more fossil fuel lobbyists at COP than there are. They outnumber the representatives from the hardest hit nations, of, the climate crisis. I mean, that to me is outrageous. And that's why I think we're still in this real sort of push me, pull you sort of, situation. I mean, my head spins when I read stuff like that, because on the one hand, we absolutely know what we have to do. We have to get off fossil fuels, and we have to do it now. And then, we have this entrenched, business model and energy system, but the writing is on the wall. We have to say goodbye to fossil fuels, and we have to do it ASAP.
Well, this is an important thing that Belinda has just noted, and we have to wrap up here, sadly, in another minute or two. But and then I want to, before we wrap up, just mention quickly, we'll just have like a minute to do it, what the Biden administration is doing. It's pretty big time, and it's pretty positive. So it's weird for me to note anything positive, but I will do that. Because I'm just so, when I say that, I know I kind of tease about that, but I'm just so dejected by what humanity is ignoring. It's such a broadside to this magical place that we inhabit along with others. And I don't mean to be too emotional about it, but I feel it very deeply. And I don't understand why. I mean, I understand why. It's money. And so to the money part, when Belinda talks about that there's 600 oil lobbyists at COP27, as countries try to shape policy about saving the planet, those oil lobbyists are not there to help shape policy that eliminates fossil fuels. They're there to help shape policy that will allow them to meet with minimum restrictions on development of fossil fuels and emissions in the years to come. 600 of them are there. So I think that's a really important point you've made, and I thank you. Can you just touch on the Biden administration quickly? There is big news out of the Biden administration on government contracts and how government contractors will be required to meet certain minimums when it comes to respecting climate goals.
Yeah, so I have to say, go Joe, because, this was going to be his number one issue if he hadn't had a pandemic and, social justice issues to focus on when he took office. But, as I've told you guys, the climate was his big thing. And he's really framing the climate crisis as an economic risk. And that's good because money talks. And the thing that he announced today, that the US government, the federal supply chain is going to have to decarbonize. The US government is the largest buyer of goods and services in the world. So the fact that he's saying, okay, you guys have to decarbonize and, no ifs, ands, or buts. I think this is a really great way to start because this is setting an example. This is saying we, the government, have to do this. And we're this, we have this huge supply chain. And, it's bigger than what they're talking about doing with their 300,000 buildings, decarbonizing them, having an electric fleet. This supply chain is huge. And then it gives him cloud, as does what happened on, November 8th, that we didn't get a red wave. We got more of a little pink trickle. But, he's emboldened, and you can see it. And he's, going to be at COP27 tomorrow. And he's, we've got the G20 meeting next week. He's having the first face-to-face with Xi Jinping since he became president. They're going to be talking about the climate. And so I think that, what he's doing is, I'm all for it. It is.
Well, when people talk about the parties, sorry to interrupt, we have to wrap up in a second, but when people talk about the parties being the same, I think increasingly that becomes a very difficult thing to defend. And I understand they're both beholden to money. And that's why you often hear the argument. They're both the same. Doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat. It really matters on issues, on a number of different issues. You just saw the overturning of Roe and all this sort of thing, a Supreme Court. But Supreme Court is also important from an environmental standpoint, and they're not environmentally friendly. And it's great to see a president at least take the initiative with this, the newest way he can do it, which is to require these government contractors that, as you say, occupy a huge footprint in the American economy, require them to meet those same goals that he's laid out. And boy, COVID really threw us off, but I also think many of our goals probably we would have been short of, not only in this country, but elsewhere, even without COVID. I got to wrap up. I'm sorry, and it's so great to have you in.
Down to 5%
if you
battery.
go to the chat, you can see all the love you've gotten and also all the communications you've gotten, so I encourage you to go back and look at that. You can communicate with Belinda directly on social media at Belinda Waymuth, WAYMOUTH, WAYMOUTH. Belinda, thank you. More time next time. All right, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. And where am I going and what am I doing, John? I am...
Oh, wait, you're already...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Where are you going?
The Nikki Maduro show is coming up next. That's pretty cool. Do I have anything to do before I...
yeah.
You
Down
can hear
to negative 1% battery.
We're down to...
Uh-oh.
Wow, that is bad. No, has a sofa been delivered?
Not yet. No.
Oh my God. Well, I don't know what to do then. Then it's goodbye. Goodbye porn music and hello farewell music.
Yes, I'm really unhappy with everything I've heard today on your show.
What's that, Johnny? What was that?
Give Ron Johnson a beer or two,
Yeah, Ron Johnson is the guy who's delivering Kim's sofa, we think.
Hello. For the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Say it ain't so. We got a goodbye. Oh, my God. Nikki's next. Join us at noon, she says. LA Times' Michael Hiltzik. Wait a minute. Nikki took Michael Hiltzik from me? Hiltzik really has some explaining to do. I'm not happy about this. Yeah, that's true. I guess we're all just plundering each other. Oh, that's wild, man.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
I'm for you hearing Michael Hiltzik wherever you hear him. So check him in. Check out Nikki's show. FTX, Tom Brady, Giselle get caught up in the crypto collapse. The musification of Twitter continues. Young voters flock to the Dems. Wow. There's a lot on Nikki's show. It's going to be great. You'll hear Kim there as well. Thanks, everybody who supported us. And I guess and hope that you'll be with us tomorrow.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Okay, I get it. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.